In the grand scheme of the universe, most intelligent species follow a predictable developmental arc. They discover fire, invent the wheel, fight some wars, split the atom, nearly blow themselves up, then finally get their act together enough to reach the stars. The Valthri, however, skipped a few steps. Specifically, they skipped the part where evolution gives you a decent immune system or any physical resilience whatsoever. Picture a 6-foot-tall translucent jellyfish with 12 tentacles and a brain the size of a basketball. Now imagine that jellyfish can solve complex quantum equations in its sleep, but gets a life-threatening infection from a light breeze. That's a Valthri for you. Their homeworld, Valthria Prime, has such a controlled environment that the concept of weather is considered theoretical physics to them. What the Valthri lacked in durability, they made up for with technological brilliance. Their medical tech was centuries beyond anything humans had developed. Their energy systems could power a small country with something the size of a toaster. Their FTL drives made interstellar travel as complicated as catching a bus. The only thing they couldn't solve was how to stop being, well, pathetically fragile. When they discovered Earth in 2022, the Valthri were initially horrified. Humans lived on a planet with unpredictable climate patterns, microscopic organisms everywhere, and gravity that would crush a Valthri like a grape. But horror quickly turned to interest when they observed humans thriving in these conditions. Interest turned to opportunity when they realized humans had something they desperately needed: genetic hardiness and an adaptive immune system that could fight off more than a harsh glance. The Valthri High Council, in their infinite wisdom, classified humans as useful primitives in their contact assessment, a species worth cultivating, like one might cultivate a particularly robust strain of bacteria for study. They made contact not with the United Nations or any public world government, but with the United States military. Why? Because even aliens can recognize who has the biggest stick on the playground. General Marcus Blackwood was having a perfectly normal Tuesday morning when a Valthri scout ship materialized above Cheyenne Mountain. The resulting chaos was surprisingly brief, considering it was humanity's first alien contact. Within hours, the Valthri Ambassador Xil'Torex was sitting in a hastily arranged meeting room, explaining through a translation device how beneficial a partnership would be for the charming but technologically stunted human species. What the Valthri didn't account for was that humans are exceptionally good at nodding along while planning something entirely different. The technology exchange program began 3 months later. The Valthri provided medical technology that cured several forms of cancer overnight. They offered energy systems that could run a hospital for a year on the equivalent power of a AA battery. They even shared limited FTL theory, though they insisted humans were centuries away from understanding the practical applications. In return, the U.S. military provided genetic samples, immune system studies, and access to human biological data. They also provided protection, a secure facility where the Valthri could operate without risk of exposure to Earth's many pathogens. The arrangement was classified at the highest levels, with only select members of Congress and the Joint Chiefs aware of our gelatinous new allies. Major Eleanor Harmon wasn't supposed to be the human liaison to the Valthri. She had been heading up a cybersecurity division when her commanding officer came down with an unexpected case of food poisoning 15 minutes before the first official meeting. Harmon was the only officer available with both the security clearance and the scientific background to not embarrass humanity in front of the aliens. "Just don't start an interstellar incident," General Blackwood had told her as she was rushed into the meeting room. "We need their tech more than they need our DNA." That wasn't strictly true, as Harmon would later discover. The Valthri needed human biological data desperately. Their species was facing a slow extinction due to their inability to adapt to any environment outside their carefully controlled habitats. They had the technology to travel between stars, but couldn't visit a planet with naturally occurring pollen without risking death. What made the partnership particularly interesting was the Valthri's absolute conviction that humans couldn't possibly understand their advanced technology. They explained concepts to Major Harmon and her team as one might explain addition to a toddler, slowly, with great patience, and frequent pauses to ask if everyone was following along. "Yes, Ambassador Xil'Torex, I understand the basic principles of quantum entanglement," Harmon would say. while the ambassador's tentacles waved dismissively. Of course you believe you do, Major Harmon, just as a fish believes it understands the ocean. This condescension extended to all interactions. The Valthri compound, built adjacent to a military research facility in Nevada, was designed with what they called simplified interfaces for their human hosts. These interfaces were still leagues beyond current human technology, but significantly dumbed down from what the Valthri used among themselves. What the Valthri failed to realize was that humans are remarkably good at reverse engineering. Give a human a black box that does something cool, and within a year, they'll have built their own version that does the same thing, but runs on diesel and can also make toast. The U.S. military's research division wasn't just studying the technology they were given. They were taking it apart, improving it, and putting it back together before the Valthri even noticed. Major Harmon's team had a saying: smile, nod, and take notes. The smiling and nodding kept the Valthri happy. The notes were changing the course of human technological development. For 3 years, the partnership continued with the Valthri, believing they were carefully managing humanity's technological ascension while harvesting valuable genetic data. The U.S. military, meanwhile, was systematically absorbing every scrap of knowledge they could while feeding the Valthri carefully curated biological samples that revealed exactly what the humans wanted them to know, and nothing more. It might have continued this way indefinitely if Ambassador Xil'Torex hadn't made what diplomats politely call a significant miscalculation and what everyone else calls a colossal screw-up. The incident occurred during a closed-door session at the United Nations. After 3 years, the Valthri had finally agreed to expand their contact beyond just the U.S. military. Representatives from the Security Councils of 12 nations had gathered in New York for what was supposed to be a historic meeting. Ambassador Xil'Torex floated into the room in his environmental suit, a marvel of engineering that looked like a cross between a deep-sea diving apparatus and a luxury spa. His tentacles waved, and what the humans had learned was an expression of mild annoyance as he surveyed the assembled representatives. "I must express my disappointment," the ambassador began, his translation device rendering his vibrations into crisp English. "When I agreed to this meeting, I was assured I would be addressing decision-makers, not administrative support staff." The room went silent. The administrative support staff included the Prime Minister of Japan, the President of France, and the Chancellor of Germany. "Perhaps there has been a translation error," offered the UN Secretary General, trying to salvage the situation. "There is no error," Xil'Torex continued, his environmental suit glowing a shade of purple that the humans had come to recognize as smugness. "I have studied your global power structures. These individuals represent obsolete nation-state constructs. I had expected to meet with representatives of your actual centers of power, your military-industrial complexes, your technological oligarchs, your financial cartels. These are the entities with whom the Valthri wish to negotiate the next phase of our relationship." Major Harmon, standing at the back of the room, closed her eyes briefly. 3 years of careful diplomacy about to go down the drain because an alien couldn't read a room. "Ambassador," she said, stepping forward, "perhaps we should take a brief recess to—" "There is no need for interruption, Major Harmon," Xil'Torex said. "I am merely expressing the Valthri High Council's position that continuing to pretend these figureheads have meaningful authority is inefficient. We have allowed the United States military to act as intermediaries because they at least understand power. These others," his tentacles waved dismissively at the world leaders, "are merely symbolic constructs maintained to give your general population the illusion of self-determination." Someone in the back of the room whispered, "Is he saying democracy is a sham?" "Not a sham," Xil'Torex corrected, his hearing apparently much better than humans had been led to believe. "A charming cultural practice, like children playing at being adults. The Valthri find it endearing, but ultimately irrelevant to our purposes here." The French president stood up, face flushed. "This is an outrage. We did not come here to be insulted by a floating jellyfish." "Your emotional response is noted but irrelevant," Xil'Torex replied. "The Valthri High Council has authorized me to offer expanded technological exchange, but only with entities capable of implementing our requirements efficiently. Your fractured political systems are too cumbersome for meaningful partnership." What happened next would later be described by witnesses as the diplomatic equivalent of watching someone step on a rake. The Japanese Prime Minister, normally the most reserved person in any room, asked a simple question. "And what requirements would those be, Ambassador?" Xil'Torex, apparently believing he was finally getting somewhere, launched into a detailed explanation of how the Valthri expected unrestricted access to human genetic material, control over certain aspects of Earth's technological development, and veto power over any human space exploration initiatives that might interfere with Valthri interests. In exchange, or he concluded, we will continue to provide technological advancements at a pace we deem appropriate for your species' development level. The room had gone from shocked silence to simmering rage. Major Harmon was frantically sending messages to General Blackwood, who was watching the feed from Washington with what could only be described as horror. What no one had told Ambassador Xil'Torex was that this closed-door session was being recorded as a matter of UN security protocol. What no one had anticipated was that a junior staff member, outraged by what they were hearing, would copy that recording onto their personal device and upload it to social media before security protocols could be implemented. By evening, the hashtag #MushFloatingJellyfish was trending worldwide. By morning, protests had formed outside the temporary Valthri embassy. By the following afternoon, the President of the United States was giving an emergency address to the nation, trying to explain why America had been in a secret partnership with aliens who apparently viewed humanity as clever pets. The carefully managed first contact scenario had just gone spectacularly, catastrophically public, and the Valthri were about to learn that humans don't take kindly to being patronized, especially not on a global stage.